Hello. Welcome to Media Queen TV. This is our 2026 series, episode 6, and we're going to chat today about Stop Killing the Yarraman, or horses. And we do have an amazing guy with us on the ground where there's been a whole lot of chaos happening with our beautiful horses, our wild horses that some people refer to as brumbies. We do have Narragain Nation Indigenous Corporation leader with us today, Andrew Wilesmith, from the Snowy Mountains in New South Wales. Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Now, I was introduced to you through Lynn Sutherland, who just did a documentary and interviewed you, and I was very moved by what you said on that documentary, which is songlines of she called it songlines of the Yarraman originally, and then songlines of the brumbies, as they're known, the wild horses there. Now, can you share a bit about your background and what you've seen happening there in the area?
Oh, well, I'm Andrew Wilesmith, and I'm a proud Narragain man and custodian and leader. The Yarraman, meaning horse, is a spiritual animal for me, and being on country. I don't approve with what's happening there. I see the mismanagement as a whole across the entire park, and I don't really approve of any of it. And it's a way of killing Mother Earth, and killing the Yarraman is killing the actual culture, heritage, and the values of the people of the mountains and Australia as a whole. And there's a better way forward, and they've just got to come to the table, and so we can sort it out in a respectful manner, and instead of just being disregarded in what we're asking for.
Yes, absolutely. And for those who don't know what's been going on in the area, Mount Kosciuszko National Park, the New South Wales Government, New South Wales Parks and Wildlife Service have decided that they need to cull these, what they call feral pests. And they're referring to the beautiful horses, the gentle horses of the area, as feral pests. They've totally inflated the numbers from what we can see. They're saying there's 16,000 horses there, and locals are saying on the ground that there's definitely no more than 1,500. Some are saying even 711 was a recent number I saw. And there's serious concerns about the brumbies facing extinction, or the horses' DNA line facing extinction. And horses have been killed in retention zones that now the New South Wales Parks and Wildlife are saying that poachers have now been on to kill some of these very rare bloodline horses in retention zones. And people are asking, the public are saying, well, no one is in the area. None of the national parks and wildlife people are letting locals onto the area. How did poachers get onto the area? Now, what are your thoughts about that, Andrew?
Well, look, at the end of the day, I don't approve of what national parks are doing, but I don't approve of poachers being in the national park either. So
yeah.
we don't associate with that type of behaviour. It's offensive and antagonistic. There's no actual proof that poachers have been in the park. But so I just don't approve of what's happening there as a whole. And I definitely don't approve of poachers being in a national park or on country.
Well, a lot of people have a hard time believing that there are even poachers there. And we know that there's been a lot of lies coming from government authorities. We know that for sure. And we actually put a press release out on our website here, which you can see on aaexpos.com. And this was we actually shared a lot of information here that hasn't been seen in the mainstream media. The headline is "Brumbies Face Extinction While Snowy 2.0 Blasts Kosciuszko National Park." So a lot of people may not realise is there is a $42 billion Snowy 2.0 pumped hydro project, blasting 40 kilometres of tunnels up to 1 kilometre beneath Kosciuszko National Park, which is actually creating, one of Australia's largest infrastructure projects inside one of the most sensitive natural landscapes, which is the Kosciuszko National Park. And people have serious concerns about the damage this is doing to the environment. And meanwhile, they're saying that the real problem is the hooves of these horses, these hard hooves of the horses are creating the problem. And no one is buying it. No one is buying it from what I've seen. Okay. And it seems like there's a lot of dirty business going on behind the scenes. And the Narragansett Nation have not been consulted, from what I hear, Andrew. Is that correct? They haven't actually even come to you to ask any questions.
No, they haven't. They've disregarded us right across the board, and they've done so forever. They use other Aboriginal mobs to speak for country, and to us as the TOs and custodians, we find that totally disrespectful. And there's a better way forward here. And what they're doing, basically, the Snowy 2 project is all about monetary gain, and it's disheartening to see what's happening there now. The National Parks and Wildlife Association had a document stating that the Snowy Hydro was affecting 14 native species and their habitats, and you don't hear of the ISC or national parks or the government wanting to protect that. And I strongly believe that if the horses were going to make as much money for the government as the Snowy Hydro, the ski fields, and everything to that effect, I very much doubt whether we'd be having this conversation right now, because to the government, it's all about money, and it's all about money making. And as we can see, there's nothing that stands in their way of them making the money. And I think that there's a bigger picture here, but they're just not coming to the table, and they're using the horses as a scapegoat to keep people focused on the horse and not the greater environmental vandalism that's happening there at the moment.
Yes, that's right. And we've had film crews come out from America and from other places wanting to document some of what's going on there, and no one is allowed anywhere near the area at the moment while they're doing, feral animal control is what they call it. They've got signs up everywhere, and we know that there's a lot of smoke and mirrors here, and people are not buying it. And from what we've seen, the animal cruelty side of this, where they are shooting from helicopters these beautiful horses up to 15 times, that they're saying is actually, that's not animal cruelty. RSPCA have given the tick of approval. From what I've heard, they've been paid $11 million to give this the tick of approval as as it's not animal cruelty. And we have seen reports of horses taking up to 10 days to die. We've seen mares that have been shot and had to abort their foals. We've seen foals beside the horses, all that kind of thing. And you've seen it personally on the ground. So what have you seen with what's been going on? Because this happened back in 2023. There was shooting happening back then of these beautiful horses, and now it's happening all over again. So what have you seen personally on the ground there, Andrew, with the horses?
Well, I've heard a lot of misinformation, and some of that information has come from Atticus Fleming, who formerly worked for National Parks and Wildlife Service. He stated that no horses were being shot and left in waterways or anything like that, and that's him giving false and misleading information to the people and to the country. I've seen horses dead in waterways to that effect. And I've seen mares that have been starting to been eaten by dogs and to that effect. And I'm not going to go into it in detail because it's too gory and it's just not right, especially the frame of mind that people are in these days and their mental health effects. So I'm just happy to leave it there and not really go into too much depth about it, just for the mental health of the people and not creating a higher anxiety for them.
Yeah, and that has been a huge issue. There's a lot of people have been really not coping well emotionally, mentally with what is going on. There's a lot of people in the community incredibly angry at the government. They don't feel they're being heard. With Penny Sharp and Chris Minns, etc., people have been writing to them. There's been petitions of hundreds of thousands of people have signed petitions to stop this. There's been rallies across Australia. People around the world have been watching on in absolute horror at the animal cruelty, and that's the only two words we can say. Animal cruelty is what is going on here. I'm sure there's much better ways that could go around this if they really thought the horses were a problem, because there's been a lot of people, from what I hear, that have been wanting to take the horses and to actually put them onto their blocks of land, and they've been turned away by the government, apparently. Have you seen that as well or heard about that, Andrew?
Yeah, I have heard of people not getting horses, but the national parks, if people want horses at the earlier stages of it, you had to take up to 5 horses and above to get horses from national parks direct. Anything under 5 horses, they had to go to rehomers and speak to rehomers or someone who was getting rid of the brumbies or something to that effect. Well, the Brumby basically got its name from Major James Brumby back in colonisation days. At the end of the day, take away that word and they're horses. They're part of the equine world, and they're just a beautiful animal. They're good to work with. They're nice and friendly, but you have to be respectful and mindful that these horses are unhandled, and they're not just there and thinking that everyone can handle these horses and stuff, because if you're not experienced and you don't know what you're looking for, well, you could get yourself into a serious situation that you don't want yourself to be in. So people have got to be mindful of that. And I get where they're coming from, and I get the emotion, but at the end of the day, I'm going to ask that the people stay strong and they remain calm about it, and they don't give the government or the national parks or anything any ammunition to come at us about. There is people working there on the ground and trying to get in to have meetings and stuff with the government for a better way forward. We just, even though it's emotional, and I used to be emotional about it myself, and that clouded some of my judgment at the time, and I've still got the emotion there, but I've removed it so I can go a better way forward and to doing it and to help the people for the Brumbies. But like I said before, I don't approve of poachers, and I don't approve of what some people being rebels and stuff, and that's including national parks and that themselves. I've heard the Environment Minister saying that we have to follow the science, but people can't follow the science because behind the science there's money, and there's heaps of money. And also when you've got a professor of science, Mr. Don Driscoll, coming out and telling basically the world that horses have litters, that's not viable, and that's just being antagonistic, and that's just basic bringing everything into disrepute. Of course, if you know about the equine, a mare's gestation period is 11 months. And in that environment up there in the park, the survival rates of foals and stuff are limited anyway, but they definitely don't have litters. They're not a female dog. They're not a sow. So they only can have one horse, one foal, or sometimes they may have two. They may have twins, but the chances of both those twins surviving is very, very minimal. And a scientific fact to follow is that horses don't have litters, and stallions can't get pregnant, and they can't have foals either. So you can't follow the science. And let's face it, when you've got people, so scientists and people want to do their stuff, they get grants and stuff like that, and the government are likely to give them the money to do their research and their investigations, but some of them have to fit the agenda of the government that's handing out the money, and so they can do their research and that. So it's all about money at the end of the day. And if everyone was worried about the environment like Mr. Jack Goff, if he was really worried about the environment and he was serious about it, he'd be worrying about the wildfires, catastrophic wildfires that where the high level of fuel loads and that is building up by having wilderness areas and stuff. Like, I've been in the park after the 2020 fires, and the fire was that hot that the ground was actually just ash and dirt and rocks and stuff. There wasn't anything left. And some of the areas that were left there and weren't impacted greatly by fire was areas where the horse was grazing. And to me, by the horse grazing those areas, they actually help protect some of the native species and their habitats. And you can't let goats, if you're culling the horse, why would people want to possibly look at introducing goats into the park as weed control? That's just not something that needs to happen. Like, the horses should be there, in a controlled environment, of course, and we don't need management of the horse numbers at the moment, because the horse numbers are definitely not there, and we can't. I'm getting sick to death of listening to Jack Goff saying about the environment and the horses have got to go and stuff. Like, this bloke, in my opinion, he's going to keep pressuring the government for total eradication, and there's nothing surer of it. And he knows the numbers aren't there, and so does the Environment Minister, and they know what's going on. And everything that they're saying is all hearsay at the end of the day. They put numbers on a bit of paper and they show you it's just not right. There's no circumstantial proof of evidence that they've got that the horse numbers are up around the 16,000 and stuff. Back when it was first coming in and Matthew Keane was the Environment Minister, the horses went from 9,000, they went to 10,000, they went to 15,000, they went to 25,000. They just didn't have a clue. They didn't have a clue back then, and to be quite honest, I don't think they've really got a clue now. The modelling is wrong as far as I'm concerned, and I'm not tech savvy by any means, and I know how to minus sheep and cows out of a mob to give me a leftover number. But for the numbers to be where they're sitting at the moment, you'd have to be seeing 20 to 25 horses in a mob every square kilometre I could imagine, and that's the only way. And you just don't see the numbers there. It's not right, and it's not rocket science. You can see there, and people that have lived there and they've roamed the mountains on horseback and everything, they know what's going on. They can see what's happening up there. And it's about education, and it's about trying to educate the uneducated, basically, like the likes of Jack Goff and stuff like that. It's not right. There's been water healing ceremonies taking place up on country, and the person that done it isn't Narragansett, and you've only got to look at what's happening in Tangtangra and down at Lobbs Hole, where there's been sewage running everywhere down at Lobbs Hole and stuff, and the blue-green algae that's happening in Tangtangra Dam at the moment. So it's so the water healing ceremony hasn't done anything for it. What it needs is the Narragansett and the elders to go up and do a smoking ceremony to cleanse the waters. And
okay,
that's my take on it. That's how I see it.
I think that's a great idea to do that. Will that be happening? The Narragansett people able to actually get onto the land to be able to do that?
There is talk at the moment, and of doing that, but I can't disclose Narragansett business.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. And for those who don't know who Jack Goff is, he is the CEO of the Invasive Species Council. And I think personally, from what I've seen, the most invasive thing about all of this is the Invasive Species Council, that are behind this. And it wouldn't surprise me if Jack Goff gets off on hunting animals for fun. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Nasty piece of work from what I've seen there. Yes, not impressed at all with what Jack Goff has been saying. And Brumbies, like all horses, they have an average gestation period of about 340 days or 11 months. So they say average 340, but really a normal pregnancy can range from between 310 to 370 days. So nearly a whole year, potentially, it can take for a horse to have a baby to actually, so one horse a year would be the maximum of the mare. So the numbers just do not add up whatsoever. It makes absolutely no sense. And this is, taxpayer-funded animal cruelty that's happening in Australia. And I really appreciate people around the world who have been, being a stand and speaking up about this, because, if we don't say anything, then nothing's going to change. We need to come together and unite and speak up about this. Chris Pinadella, good to see you on LinkedIn. He says, Aldwyn, I absolutely love that you are an animal lover and are speaking about this. Thank you so much, Chris. He says, where is Dr. Gary? We did another show recently with Dr. Gary that I highly recommend you check out on that was actually on Total Truth Show. And Chris says here, I saw your other show about this subject. This is infuriating, absolutely awful. Yes, we did do another show with Lynn Sutherland and Victoria Kershoff where we talked about the truth about the Brumbies, and that was very insightful as well. Highly recommend you watch that one. Chris says here, horses are some of the most compassionate, loving animals on earth. How terrible that this is happening. Yes, absolutely, Chris. They are, they are beautiful, beautiful animals. And I think horses and people have had such a beautiful relationship for such a long time. You know, horses are like a man's best friend, really. You know, if you think of, you know, back in the war days, and the horses, these horses in Australia go way back to, to hundreds of years ago, where, you know, we had these horses in war times, and through the whole history of Australia in the current, you know, modern, I guess, colonialization, but also in the Narragansett, Narragansett times before that, before the colonization of Australia. What was the significance of the horse to the Narragansett Nation, Andrew?
Well, the horse was introduced back in colonisation, so they were brought here, but by them being brought here, they become part of the Narragansett culture and other Aboriginal culture, where some of the Aboriginals, men and women, have become great horse people, and they've become brilliant stockmen and stockwomen and stuff. And they just like they are for the white people, not meaning any disrespect, that they are now a part of the Aboriginal heritage and culture and values, just like they are for the white people. And they are a beautiful horse, and they're really nice to handle, and I enjoy riding them. I enjoy training them. They walk across song lines, or along the song lines that the Narragansett mob used to walk along, singing songs and stuff. They're a part of the environment, and they've been a part of the ecology and everything for hundreds of years, and it's obviously worked. And the only reason it's not working now is because the government and the Invasive Species Council are trying to change the environment and the ecology of the place. And they've got to stop this. We want to be in control and do what we want to do, because that's not the right way to go about it, and it's not the right way to be protecting the environment. Now, one part I do want to say is Jack Goff from the ISC, the CEO. He needs to decipher what he believes is alpine country from subalpine country. And if he thinks it's a pristine environment and the ecology of it, well, show us what pristine looks like. Show us how he sees pristine, because it's not a pristine environment, and he's got no idea of it. And Chris Min stating that we've got to get rid of the horse to protect the ecology. Well, no, you don't. What he has to do is reduce the fuel loads to stop the catastrophic wildfires from impacting the ecology and the ecosystems of the Snowy Mountains. Stop ruining the environment. He's approved an amusement park in the mountains. Well, I'm sorry, but I've never seen a horse drive a bulldozer and rip the dirt up, and I've never seen him drive a truck to remove the dirt. I've definitely never seen him laying concrete. So that it's there for the world to see. And you've only got 4 seasons a year. You've only got spring, summer, winter, and autumn. That's all it is. And when you're dealing and you're fighting a wildfire, what you're trying to do is to remove the fuel. You're trying to take the fuel away, so the fires are more controllable. You don't want to be increasing the fuel so no one can fight the fire. It's just not right. And you don't see these people when there's a catastrophic wildfire happening. You don't see these people running towards the fire. the likes of Jack Goffin, the Premier and the Environment Minister, or anything like that. All you see is the national parks firefighters, state forest firefighters, and the volunteer New South Wales firefighters and firefighters from other states. These governments, they run from the fire, but it's people like myself and other firefighters and that run towards these things. And we know what it's like to be taking on the devil. He couldn't beat a fiddler down in Georgia, so he's definitely not beating men and women on fire hoses. And the red tape around this has to change. It has to change, and the park needs to be better managed. And don't blame the horse for it, because it's not the horse doing it. It's the government, it's the Greens, and it's the red tape surrounding it. We even have, when we're at a fire, we have a hard time of doing backburns and stuff. Like the jargon that's around the doing backburns is just ridiculous. And it's got to get back to the basics. It can't. This is ridiculous how they're carrying on about it. They're creating the problem, and they're blaming the horse and basically every other thing. So if they ever got the chance to eradicate the horse, what are they going to blame next?
Oh, exactly. They're always blaming animals for what they're up to. Apparently, more people have died from gaming machines falling on them than the Lassa virus from the bats, right? So, it's crazy what we're hearing out there from government, and people are just not buying it. We need to cull the politicians and cull the red tape in Australia, not cull the animals. The animals are very gentle, and Lynn Sutherland was actually saying from Travel Wild TV, and she's been on the ground documenting, filming these horses, and she says they actually walk single file through the bush to leave the least amount of damage on the environment, whereas humans go through with quad bikes and, as you say, four-wheel drives and bulldozers, and they say that the animal is causing the environmental damage, which is just totally ludicrous. And as you say, the brumbies, the horses, actually help the environment because they're natural gardeners. They are nature's most effective natural gardeners. They also help the environment by dispersing seeds through their nutrient-rich manure, which we have in our press release. You can check it out. And also they graze on tall, dry vegetation, which minimizes bushfires and reduces fuel loads. So they manage the overgrown pastures. They also create spaces for smaller native wildlife to access fresh vegetation without the need for harmful pesticides. So there's lots of benefits of horses in the environment, and the fact is there's nowhere near the numbers that they are claiming there are, and we have serious concerns now of the DNA of some of these horses becoming endangered or extinct, and this is a serious concern. Now, with the Narragansett Nation, we've seen bushfires right across Australia. In fact, in Victoria, the government shot down 1,000 koalas in an area of Victoria where there were bushfires, and they said these koalas were not going to survive. And that also has led to people being totally up in arms, because koalas are critically endangered in Australia, and the government goes shooting them from helicopters. So again, it's complete animal cruelty. And so it's not the first time this has happened. This has happened in multiple ways. They shoot rainbow lorikeets, they shoot all sorts of animals. Cockatoos, they shoot wombats, they shoot, and they're all under the name of feral animal control, right? And the only feral animals we're seeing here in Australia really are these politicians and the red tape. We have 125 taxes in Australia. 125 taxes, and our taxpayer money. Look, I don't mind paying taxes if our taxes were actually put to good use. But no, the government puts millions of dollars or billions of dollars into things like the fire ant eradication program, which is actually making the fire ant problem worse. It's killing off our pollinators, it's killing off our organic food supplies. The poisons are getting into people's water tanks because, again, they're dumping this poison from helicopters. So, do your own research on that. But basically, there's a lot of crap going down that is seriously affecting the mental health of the public. And this is where we do need to stay strong. We do need to stay calm, because there's only so much that we can control, right? There's a lot we can't control in the world. However, I do believe it's important we keep being a stand for our animals and for the environment, because certainly the government is not doing it, right? And they're not consulting with the Aboriginal locals of the area. As you say, they've consulted other Aboriginals from different areas who probably have no idea about that particular area. And I know, having gone through walks through the bush. I did a walk in Mossman up in North Cairns. I went through the bush with the one of the local Aboriginals from that area, and I know, just going from one area of the forest to another area of the forest, they actually did a I don't know what you call it, but they actually called out to the spirits and said, "Is it okay if we now enter into this next section, because it was belonged to a different Aboriginal mob, I guess, or group." So can you explain a bit about that, about how the Narragaow actually managed the land before white settlement in Australia? How did what is some wisdom we can draw on from how the Aboriginals actually managed the land before white fellas came in, and in some ways they added some good things, but also added a hell of a lot of damage. So can you talk about that and draw on some of that wisdom?
Well, the Aboriginal people across the country that I'm not speaking on their behalf, because only the knowledge holders like the elders can speak on behalf of mobs of those particular areas. I like to be careful with what I'm saying in relations to that, because I don't want to be disrespectful to those mobs and to the elders.
Yes.
With the Narragaow, it's not that we can't cull the government. Like, we can vote a different party and stuff like that. Like, they need to sit down and they need to talk to the knowledge holders for a better way forward, and they need to educate themselves a little bit better. They need to educate themselves on doing cool burns and the like, and managing it properly, and managing the fuel loads. Like, do I think that you could do cultural burns with the way the fuel loads have been allowed to burn in the mountains and in the wilderness areas and stuff? You could, but it'd be very difficult. It'd be extremely difficult to do it. And it'd be a dangerous and arduous task to do that. The way you could do it is have a hazard reduction burn, basically. And what you try to do is, when you're doing a cultural burn, you don't want the fire to impact the trees too much, to the devastation that they don't grow back and they can't come back from it. So the main objective is reducing the fuel loads, because let's face it, if you haven't got no fuel, you've got no fire. And and I've never seen a fire burn green grass. And the pioneering stockmen and everything, I believe they did have it right. And we need to just drop all this technology and all this red tape and everything, and we have to get back to the basics. And the basic is starting with proper management, and stop being ignorant and arrogant towards the facts that, to me, grazing does reduce blazing, because you're minimising the fuel load. And if you've got a horse pad where the horses have been walking out back into the bush off the plain, and you've got a low to moderate fire burning there, those pads can actually help stop the spread of fire. But when you've got a catastrophic wildfire, there's nothing that's going to get in its road that's going to stop that. So you've got to try to get out the front, and you got to take a lot of things into consideration, like the weather patterns and your relative humidity and stuff. If you've got a high humidity, that tells a firefighter and the IM team that there's moisture in that fuel. And when you get from, say, 25% and it drops down to 10 or 12% or even 18%, that then tells us that there's moisture gone out and the fuel has dried a lot more. And that creates more erratic fire behavior. And that's what you got to try to remove the fuel. And as a firefighter, that's what we try to do. We're trying to remove the fuel so we can get a better control on the fire and try to get an upper hand so it doesn't create so much destruction. And the best way to do that is listen to the people on the ground and listen to the people in the mountains that live and breathe these places, and it's worked in the past. So there's no reason why it can't work now. Stop eradicating the heritage, culture, and values of this country and the people. And if it wasn't for the horses helping build this nation and defending our freedoms and our rights of this country, I doubt we'd be in the place where we are today. So we've got a lot to be thankful for. And the horses have to be looked after, and they've got to be protected. They don't need to be killed in this inhumane way. It's just, to me, it's just the government hating down on our culture, heritage, and our values. And it can't continue. Get back to the basics and come to the table and start being educated properly.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you think your elders who have passed away, what do you think they'd be thinking right now of what's going on? What would they be saying or thinking?
They wouldn't be happy about it. They'd be sick, and they'd want to be talking to the government and sitting at the table and negotiating these things and putting some of their knowledge and everything into policy, I guess. But I know they wouldn't be happy, and they're killing the creator, and you can't take that away from anything. It's there, and you can see that they are killing the creator. The mountain and alpine ash, they'll never ever grow back. So that's increased the fuel for more catastrophic wildfires. The next wildfire that goes through there, it's not a matter of if and when. It's actually a matter of when the fire goes through there. It's going to be bigger and better than Ben-Hur. And these politicians, when that happens, they'll become nocturnal like a feral pig, and you won't hear from them until it's all over. And I've seen that right across the board as well. And you still see it to this day. You don't see it until the fire's nearly over or whatever, and they come out and they start big noting themselves. Unless you've got the knowledge of this and you've fought the catastrophic wildfire, you're only clutching it. They're only clutching at straws, and it doesn't impact the environment and everything. It impacts the people. It impacts the communities. It impacts the farming community. It impacts everyone. And there's a better way forward. And the government just don't get it. They just got to stop their nonsense and get back to the basics. Get back to what the Australian way was, and let the people show them the way, and educate them on what's the best practice for the land. And that's talking to the people that have the knowledge and that's including the elders of the Narragansett. And it's not about the money, it's about the respect. At the end of the day, we're just not getting the respect.
No, you're not being heard at all. You're not, as you say, you just want to sit at the table. You just want to sit down and talk about it. You know, there's people behind desks that are making these decisions that have no idea what's going on the ground. Do you think it would make sense to talk to the Narragansett Nation, talk to people who've lived there for years and actually ask their opinion of things, you know, actually get on the ground and see what's really going on?
Slim Dusty sang a song called To Whom It May Concern. And I've listened to that song and I quite enjoy it. And there's another song he sings called Your Country's Been Sold. I suggest that people listen to those songs and they listen to the wordings of them, and then they relate it to the way the government is now. He was pretty well on the money.
Yes.
And
yes.
I can't say any more than that. So.
Yes, and also Midnight Oil did some great songs as well back in the day, and they had one called Beds Are Burning, and that's also another interesting one to have a listen to as well. So yes.
If people want to say the truth, there's a song that Troy Cassadaly and some of the other country artists sang, and it's called Tangerine Sky, and it shows footage of the fires that went through Victoria, with all respect to the victims of that time. And in those pictures, you can see the destruction of the environment and the ecology and everything. It's right there. It's right there for the world to see, but the government don't see it. Or they can see it, but they just don't want to acknowledge it. And they don't want to fix the problem. And they're just letting it go, as far as I'm concerned, of part of this global warming and this climate change stuff. Well, the climate is changing because the government's allowing it to change. You've got tarred roads, you've got concrete, you've got bricks and all that. All these places, all these things, they hold heat. They hold the coldness. They hold everything. So, yes, it is changing. We're getting more concrete. We're getting more roads and stuff. And it's the way it is.
Yeah, it's interesting. Humans are the only species that actively destroy our environment. All right, isn't that interesting? You know, look at the destruction across the world of the rainforests that have been taken down, of all the animals that have become extinct or endangered because of, you know, human impact on the planet. Now, while I don't wish harm on anyone, I do believe in karma personally. That's a personal belief. I do believe what comes around goes around. I'm very curious with the Narragansett Nation. What are the beliefs or in the culture in the Narragansett Nation of you know, when someone does harm to the environment or to animals unnecessarily? And I know with the Aboriginals, from what I know, is that they would only kill and hunt animals for their food or for their survival. There was always a lot of respect, I believe, for the animals. A lot of you know, Aboriginal dances and songs, as you say, are around animals. They're very close to the culture of the Narragansett Nation. So when I say karma, what is the sort of equivalent, or what are the beliefs in the Narragansett Nation around that?
They've got the Nulla Nulla, and they've got the Medicine Man and all that on different things. The wedge-tailed eagle to the Narragansett is a protector of country. He flies around and he can see what's going on. Mother Nature, Mother Earth, she protects country as well, and that's why we're getting different. There's always messages in the wind, and it's from the creator and the ancestor. And it's hard to explain. Through those channels, it's a spiritual thing, and it's spiritual and deep in the heart of the Narragansett people and mob, and as well as other mobs and stuff throughout the country. So, me personally, to me, there's a G'daycha man, and the G'daycha man is watching, and so is the protector. And they deal with things in their own way. And I'm just gonna, I'll leave it on that note. So,
yes, well, it'll be interesting to see what comes of all this. And, this mass killing spree has been extended to July 11, so it's still another week or so to go. It was meant to go till June 30, that they were killing all these horses, and then they've extended it to July 11. So, there's rallies have been going on across the nation. Now there's an injunction, I believe, that's just been put into court on Friday in an attempt to stop this barbaric cruelty that is going on, and actually to sit down and logically, if you do see the horses as a problem, well, let's sit down and talk about it. But in the meantime, let's also talk about the damage that Snowy 2.0 is doing at the same time, right? Let's have a talk about that. But of course, the sole shareholder of the Australian government project is the Australian government. So, of course, here we are. We want to negotiate with the Australian government. We want to talk to the Australian government about their project that is causing so much damage to the whole area, the Snowy Mountains and Kosciuszko National Park and all of it, the damage that a 40-kilometre tunnel would do, a kilometre underground. And I believe there's already been all sorts of mishaps that have happened, and the budget is completely blown out on the whole project. It just sounds like a schmozzle. So, it's going to be interesting to see where this all goes. Andrew, for those who are tuning in and who maybe feel a little bit helpless and hopeless to do anything about this, what would you say to them?
Just hang in there.
Hang in there. Yeah. I always say, as long as there is breath, there is hope. And I think, as awful as this is, there's people around the world who don't have homes, who don't have food, who don't have, families. There's war-torn areas out there that are also in incredible hardship. There are people, so many people around the world that don't have food or shelter, or don't have, proper clothing, or don't, there's people like that out there. And however, if they have breath, there is hope, right? As hard as things might seem. And unfortunately, a lot of these horses don't have breath anymore because they've been killed in the most disgusting ways. However, whatever horses do remain, and whatever, amazing Brumby horse refuges and sanctuaries out there, thank you to the people who have rescued and who have these amazing, Brumby sanctuaries across Australia. Thank you to you. And for those in America, I know you've got the Mustang. You have similar issues in America with the Mustang, and there's a lot of people also that are doing a lot of good for the horses as well. So thank you to those who are doing that. And you are not alone if you're feeling upset or angry by what is going on. There's a lot of people that feel the same, and we can only do what we can do, right? We can sign the petitions, we can write to our politicians, we can attend the rallies, we can share the posts, we can, it's amazing the viral impact that is happening right now. Aussie Daily did a story on me a few days ago, and it's already been, seen by 200,000 people across socials. It's been shared over 1,200 times. So thank you to everyone who's sharing this knowledge and information and helping to, inform and empower people to come together and to be a stand and say, this is not okay for this to happen. And we're going to keep fighting this and keep standing for this until something shifts. That's how
when people are writing to these governments and stuff, I'm asking that when they write, they take the emotion out of it they try to take the emotion away from it and not play into the government and the minister's hands, and just be factual and asking. Don't try not to be like the government and the Invasive Species Council, because what they want division, and they want to see us all fighting amongst ourselves and everything, and to them we just look like laughing stock basically, and we're better than that.
Yeah.
And we can fight this.
Yes.
So I'm just asking everyone to remain calm.
Yes.
Ask them and send the emails, but be calm about it and don't be fogged by emotion.
Yes, that's a great idea. And it's the same with if you were to go into a court case, you just present the facts. You go, okay, these are the facts, right? And of course, emotion, of course, will come up, but let's be peaceful and powerful about this. It's like in martial arts, right? The most powerful martial artists are those who remain peaceful and powerful. There is definitely a lot to be said for that, to be able to calm your emotions, to be able to come to it with a logical point of view and say, hey, like, these numbers don't add up. It makes no sense what's going on here. Let's actually be logical about this. Like, let's deal with what's in front of us in a peaceful, powerful manner. I love that, Andrew. Thank you so much. I see that, there's Chris says, sounds like, Jack Goff, sounds like Jack off, Jack off, Jack Goff, not Jack Goff. That is quite hilarious. Thank you, Chris. We know Chris is a bit of a comedian in the background there. So Jack Goff, we would like you to jack off right now with your opinions about what is going on. Actually have a close look on the ground and see what's really going on, rather than coming to crazy conclusions. Chris Pinadella here on LinkedIn says a horse is one of those animals that when you look each other in the eye, they seem to instantly understand you. They are remarkable animals. Absolutely, Chris. There's a lot of healing that comes from horses. In fact, there's a charity here on the Gold Coast that we've supported with some of our animal action events in the past called Healing Hooves. And there's a lot of people I know that do horse therapy. Andrew, what's your experience with that? You have some horses yourself, do you? And what's your experience of the healing power of horses?
Yeah, they were a really good animal to sit with and to engage with, and they bring you peace and they bring you calm. And back in 2015, 2016, I was diagnosed with PTSD from my experiences with the Rural Fire Service, and myself attending jobs that weren't so good. I don't let it define me, and when I'm having a bad couple of days, or I feel that I'm struggling, I like to go and put myself on country, and I like just to sit there and listen to the messages in the wind and just be with the creator and the horse, and they bring peace, they bring comfort, and they're very intriguing type of an animal. And you've just got to sit there and you've just got to listen. It's not about talking or anything. It's about sitting there and listening to the messages, because everything sends messages. It's up to the people how they interpret the message. And it's like when you're talking to someone, people don't always need advice. They just need a listening ear, so people can get it off their chest or whatever, and to help them feel better. And the horse has got no judgment. It listens to you, and you listen to it, and it's struggling with what's going on, and you can tell in their eyes, because all you can see is the flight and the fight zone of the horse. and everyone's got it. Everyone's got it, and every animal's got it. And you don't need to be having everything in a flight and fight zone. And that's when you're going to start running into trouble. It's a matter of knowing where the pressure points are and when to apply the pressure and when to take the pressure off. It's just standard way of doing things, and it's the best way forward. It's not just about killing everything just for your own gain or for monetary gain or anything. This is ridiculous, and it's nonsense. And there's a better way forward, and it's about time that the government come forward about it. They don't know it. They don't understand any of this. So because they don't understand, they're not going to get it. So Chris Minns, Jack Goff, and Penny Sharp, or whoever, come to the table and just listen. And there's a better way forward. Leave your arrogant and your ignorant attitudes at the door, and just come in peace and with respect, and better educate yourselves, because they lack education at the moment.
Yes, 100%. And I always find when I connect with animals, and I absolutely love horses, I've always loved horses from a young age. And whenever I connect with an animal, I find so much peace within that. They're so healing. Animals and nature is so healing for us. And a lot of the bureaucracy out there, they just sit behind their desks, they sit behind their computers, and, you know, they make decisions on the environment from behind their computers, and they've got no idea. They just haven't taken the time to connect and really get how powerful nature is and how powerful the animals are. And you know, it really is a beautiful thing. And we are human beings. We're not human doings. We're human beings. So when we can calmly be with an animal and be with nature, and, you know, listen to the messages that come through the wind, as you say, through the breeze, through the, you know, really admire the beautiful world that we live in. With, you know, it really is a magnificent world. And, you know, if only humans would stop destroying the planet, especially humans in bureaucracy that are causing a lot of damage, and actually listen to the people who've been on the land, like the Narragansett Nation, for so many years, and actually learn something from that, I think the world would definitely be a better place. And we had, you know, just a week ago or so, we had, you know, Michael Jackson was commemorated around the world for the anniversary of the passing of Michael Jackson, and a beautiful song that he did called "Heal the World." You know, we can heal the world, and it really is a wonderful world. And I think if we can bring more peace and calm and power to the situation through the peace and calm, and unite. There's so many amazing Brumby groups, for example, on Facebook. There's so many people doing phenomenal stuff and helping to raise awareness around this. And I want to thank each of you out there who are doing that. Stay strong, stay calm, as you say, and you know, together we will get through this. We've been through some massive challenges through the whole COVID period and in the past, and no doubt there's been dark forces from the beginning of time. There'll be dark forces till the end of time. And there's also a lot of light forces. So let's, you know, stay in our light. Let's shine a light on the darkness, and let's, you know, move forward in a positive way. Any other thoughts, Andrew? We'll wrap up the show shortly. Any final thoughts you'd like to share?
I'd just like to thank everyone for their time and their efforts, and keep going with it. And work hard, be respectful, and always be good to your mother.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Andrew. It's been amazing having you on the show. And for those who want to connect with you too, I'll come to a few more comments there on LinkedIn. For those who want to connect with you, where can they find you, Andrew?
I'm never too far away, so they can probably contact me through social media or something like that. So there's...
Wonderful.
You just got to look on those platforms, and I'll be around somewhere.
Yes, thank you so much. So Facebook, you'll find Andrew Wilesmith, or some other social media. And Chris Pinadella here says, I'm a huge believer in the good ancestor principle, and that's leaving the planet better than you found it. for 7 generations to come. And destroying wildlife in any way, shape, or form is a huge violation of that principle. Yes, Chris, absolutely. People suck. Yeah, well, some people suck. Some people suck, and then there's other good people that are doing a lot of amazing things. And I'm sure at birth, no one sucked, because usually we don't look at a baby and go, oh, that baby sucks, right? And somewhere along the way, a baby goes from an innocent, open, loving being to being, in some cases, not being so loving. And I think hurt people, Andrew. Hurt people, and hurt people hurt animals. And healed people heal people, and healed people heal animals. And I think there's a lot of wisdom we can learn from our Narragansett Nation elders, and the whole Narragansett Nation, and the Aboriginals across Australia, and the Indigenous people of all the nations around the world. There's a lot of wisdom that goes back millions of years that we can tap into if only we were open enough to actually come to the party and actually tune in and gain some of that wisdom, rather than trying to bulldoze everyone and everything with very limited knowledge, right? Which is what we've seen happen.
What's the thing that the government have got to understand? These horses never asked to be brought here. The horses, the Yarraman, have never asked to be treated in this disrespectful manner and way. It's gross behaviour, and it's offensive. It's disrespectful. It's brought our state and our country into disrepute, and it's got to stop. It's got to stop, and it can't continue on. And yeah, and if it ever came out that the government and that were in the wrong, the people who made these decisions have to be held accountable for it. And let's face it, if we all went out and done what the government's doing now to the horse or to any animal, the RSPCA would prosecute us to the full extent of the law, and we would be placed in a custodial sentence. We'd be put behind bars. And this is not right. This is a criminal act. And that's the only way I can put it. It's barbaric. And
yeah, 100%. It is barbaric. It's absolutely barbaric animal cruelty, and enough is enough is enough. And there's a lot more people than there are politicians. So time for the people to unite, to come together, and to be a stand in a bigger way. Share this information with people. It's amazing how many people don't know what a Brumby is even still out there. Share the information. Let people know what is happening with our beautiful, gentle horses.
They're not Brumbies, so we've got to change our way of thinking. They're not Brumbies. They're horses, and they're and they got the same body parts and everything as any other horse, a domestic horse or anything. They all look the same. Some are bigger, some are taller, some are rounder, and some are more narrow. And they're part of the equine world. And you don't do it, and they're not Brumbies. They're horses, and they're a living being. So, and they need that, they deserve that respect. And if people can't, everyone's going to have a differing opinion, and I understand that. But when they've got a different opinion, I question how they studied history and colonisation days, and how it's been built from back then to now, and for it to be moving forward in the future. And I've seen it growing up, and so are the people of today. Why don't the future generations have the right to be seeing how history's been built and created right across the board? It's got to stop, and this is all about history, and we need to make it right for the future generation. So it continues on through the chain.
Yes, absolutely, Andrew. Totally with you on that. Now, Chris Pinadella wants to help. Well, we haven't spoken specifically about a charity here, Chris, although there are a lot of Brumby groups right now, and I know that money has been raised for the court case, etc. So just have a look at some of the Brumby groups. And yes, they are horses. It's just that they've become to be known as Brumbies by a lot of people. And so, yes, we're talking about horses, and that's why we have Stop Killing the Yarraman. The Yarraman is it's the Narragansett term for horse, right?
It's Narragansett language for the horse.
Yes, Narragansett language for the horse. It's a Yarraman, the horses. So, Chris, have a look at some of the groups, the horse groups or Brumby groups on Facebook. Thank you. Sending love. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. We literally live in the garden. Greed and power destroys it. Yes, absolutely, Chris. That's 100% right. Look, thank you so much, Andrew. It's been amazing having you on the show. I'm going to share here how people can connect with me as well, and how you can check out that press release that actually has a lot of details about what we've been talking about here. It's called Brumbies Face Extinction While Snowy 2.0 Blasts Kosciuszko National Park. Aussie Daily have been amazing. Thank you to Aussie Daily and for all the truth media out there, Daily Telegraph, 2SM. There's been a lot of other media going out there. Current Affair did a story, some positive. The media are meant to give a balanced opinion of any story, and I think a lot of the media that aren't compromised are doing that. So thank you to all the truth media out there who are doing their bit to help with this. Now you can go to connect with me here at linktr.ee/Aldwyn, linktr.ee/Aldwyn. At the top there you will see my website. Pop into that top link and go to the news section. You'll see the whole press release there. And also subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. I would love that. And we're also on Facebook. We've been streaming today to Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. This will also be on Spotify, on BitChute, and Rumble as well. Chris says, this was a very good show. Thank you. Have a wonderful day or night. Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much. Really glad you enjoyed the show. Let us know what you thought. If for those who've been tuning in live or if you're watching the replay, let us know what you thought. And please share the love. Please help to get this information out there to empower the community to take positive action, and hopefully together with people power we'll be able to create change in a bigger way. Andrew, thank you once again. Any final words before we wrap up today?
Thank you all, and just keep going with the way you are, and just try to remove the emotion out of it, and you'll benefit from that.
Yes,
and
thank you so much.
Always be good to your mother.
Yes, always be good to your mother. I love that. Yes, and even if your mother's in spirit land or in another dimension, always put out kind thoughts and good thoughts as much as possible. I'm sending love to everyone. I know a lot of people are needing more love right now, and I think always coming from a loving place, remembering that hurt people, healed people heal people. And I will leave you with a quote here. And it is, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So here is to us standing for justice for our beautiful horses and for the Narragansett Nation to actually be heard by the government. That would be fantastic. So we are putting out an open invitation here for the government to actually reach out to the Narragansett Nation, to the locals of the area, to actually hear, how it can be better managed than what's currently happening. That would be fantastic. So we'll set that intention, and hopefully we'll see some change happen. And another quote I'll leave you with, another one of my favorites, is by Gandhi, and it is, be the change you wish to see in the world. Be the change you wish to see in the world. Thank you so much, Andrew. Have a lovely Sunday or Saturday night if you're in the other part of the world. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again soon on Media Queen TV. Thank you again. Bye, Andrew. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.